This conference will now be recorded.
So thank you everyone for coming. This is the first ever meeting of the Tampa Bay Estuary Program's new social science subcommittee. And so many of you I have talked to virtually and chatted with. I've scoped a lot of you out and some stalking of, your research and the type of work that you do. And identified a lot of you as potentially great partners for capturing some of the different research and outreach education objectives that we have here at the Estuary Program for the next 5 years and beyond. So I'm really excited to see so many of you here. This is being recorded. All of our meetings will be recorded and published online. So for the many people who have classes right now or have jobs where they can't sort of get away for a big chunk of time, hello out there in the virtual world. We're happy to have you participate asynchronously. And we're looking forward to getting to know all of you better and to hopefully working with you over these next few years. So today is going to serve as just a general sort of introduction to the Tampa Bay Estuary Program. I know we have several people interested in the subcommittee that have worked with us in the past or that are friendly with us, but there are a lot of people that probably don't know much about the Estuary Program and what it is that we do. We are a staff of 8 people trying to save Tampa Bay and work with all of the partners across the region to help us achieve a bunch of our different environmental and human well-being goals. And so I wanted to sort of first start this off, just kind of giving everyone a quick introduction to our staff that we have here. So I'll start with Ed. Ed is our executive director. Ed, if you want to give just a brief hello and sort of tell everyone sort of what you do here at TBEP.
Good morning, everyone. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to participate in this subcommittee meeting. I'm Ed Short. I'm the director of the Estuary Program, and I've been with the program since about 2008, where I was formerly the senior scientist. So we're basically looking to develop research, restoration, and education projects that would benefit the Bay, as Blake mentioned, and we oversee different technical areas and have a staff of 8, as Blake just mentioned. So I direct the overall operations.
Thanks, Ed. Maya?
Hey everyone, I'm Maya Burke. My background is in both social science as a political scientist and in environmental science. I've spent most of my career as an environmental land use planner and working as a policy analyst for different regional environmental agencies. I've been with the Tampa Bay Estuary Program for the past 7.5 years. And I help Ed on the administrative side of things, and I also serve as our primary public voice in terms of the press and members of the community writ large. And I'm really excited to see this part of our vision coming to fruition by bringing you all into the fold of our work and learning from everything that you all do.
Thanks. Marcus?
Morning, everybody. My name is Marcus Beck. I'm the program scientist for the Estuary Program. Been in that role for almost 4 years now. Seems like a lot shorter than that, but 4 years have passed and I'm still here. So I co-chair the Open Science Subcommittee. So it's kind of similar to the Social Science Subcommittee. It's nested under our Technical Advisory Committee. So I'm involved with a lot of basically evangelizing the virtues of doing science out in the open and how that can not only improve what we do at the Estuary Program, but also elevate the science and research and restoration activities of all of our partners. So I'm really excited to hear what the Social Science Subcommittee is going to do, and I'll sort of stay involved in that work and help where I can.
Thanks, Marcus. Sheila?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Sheila Scalaro. I'm the Community Program Scientist with the Tampa Bay Estuary Program. I've been in this role for about 3 years, so since 2020. I facilitate our community advisory committee, which is what this subcommittee is kind of nested in. And then I also coordinate all of our volunteer engagement, so our volunteer activities, citizen science, all of those different activities, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So looking forward to working with all of you.
Thanks. Jessica?
Good morning, y'all. My name is Jessica, she or they pronouns. I'm the program support specialist, and I do a little bit of a lot of things, but mostly today I'm going to be talking to you about a couple of our funding opportunities that we provide. My background is marine science, but also policy and community organizing. I feel like I've been like a wannabe social scientist for most of my life, so I'm pretty excited to learn more from y'all and work together in the future. Thank you.
Carrie?
Hi everyone, my name's Carrie Flaherty-Wallia. I started with the program just a year ago, and I'm the program's restoration ecologist. So I facilitate our Habitat Restoration Consortium, which is part of our technical advisory committee that basically brings together restoration practitioners from across the region to share ideas. I have a background. I worked for in fisheries ecology. I worked for Florida Fish and Wildlife for 18 years. So I am passionate about making sure that we have monitoring in place to make sure that all of the work that we're doing is successful and effective. And I'm excited to see that we're going to have a whole new group of social scientists helping us in our endeavors. Thanks.
Thanks. Carly?
Hi everyone, I'm Carly Jones. I have been with the Estuary program for just over a month now, so I'm pretty new. But I coordinate all the different communications platforms, so social media, um, uh, communications for events. So this will be really helpful to help me see who our audience is and who we need to target to. And I look forward to working with y'all.
Thanks, Carly. And yeah, if people aren't familiar with me, so now my name is Blake Simmons. I'm the environmental social scientist here at TBEP, and I work on the different human dimensions to all of our environmental and community projects that we have here. I started my career as a wildlife biologist. And then realized that the answers to all of my wildlife questions had to do with changing landscapes. So I became a landscape ecologist for a while, and then realized the answers to all my questions about why the landscape is changing comes down to human behaviors. And so progressed eventually into this environmental social science realm and thinking about how people make environmental decisions. And so for this social science subcommittee, so we are currently at over 100 people that have expressed interest in joining the social science subcommittee. And so a lot of these are people with sort of direct experience and expertise in social science research, methods, and implementation. But we're also getting a lot of people from communities and different organizations that maybe don't have particular expertise in social science, but it's directly applicable to the work that they do. And so they want to sort of stay in touch and keep on top of the different projects that we do to see sort of how they can apply some of the insights that we come up with, but also helping to identify opportunities in their area, in their community, or in their organization that can help them sort of achieve their own goals that they have. So there's a ton of people here. If your organization is not in here, I apologize. I made this about a month ago, and so we've had more people sort of coming in, but this is just kind of a snapshot of the different research institutes, universities, governmental and non-governmental agencies and organizations. We also have a lot of other national estuaries that are interested in learning and collaborating with the social science subcommittee here to sort of help us align research goals and practices so that, the things that we come up with here can be adopted throughout the country with all of our different estuary partners that are out there. And many of you responded to that form that I sent out about 2 months ago, a month to 2 months ago now, just to sort of gauge, what are your interests or expertise across different social science disciplines. And this is kind of a word cloud of the most commonly sort of cited interests that everyone in the social science subcommittee has. There's a very prominent interest in social equity and environmental justice, which sort of spans across all the different dimensions of social science. We also have a lot of people with expertise in social science research methods, qualitative research methods and statistics, communications, marketing, and education is also very prominent, but also other fields, sociology, anthropology, psychology, human geography. We also have some folks that specialize in urban or landscape planning and design, health and climate resiliency of communities is also in here. And then we also have a few people that have expertise in economics and environmental ethics, and a lot of people interested in policy dimensions of things as well. So we've got a pretty eclectic group of people here, and that was really sort of our goal. We've got a lot of issues to tackle here in Tampa Bay, and if it takes a village to raise a child, how many people does it take to actually solve a problem in a community of 3 million people? So we're very happy to get all of this diverse expertise together so that we can hopefully come up with some innovative and practical solutions to a lot of the problems facing Tampa Bay. And so what I'd like from all of you is, we want sort of everyone to, in the subcommittee, to kind of get to know one another. This is an opportunity for all of you as well to help build your own networks and get to know one another and identify synergies and potential partnerships that can benefit you all. And so what I'd like from all of you, we have a lot of people here, so just, a quick sort of, 1 minute or less kind of just introduction of yourself to the rest of the social science subcommittee, who you are, where do you work, and what it is that you do. I understand some of you maybe have internet issues or mic problems. If you're not able to speak, then feel free to write in the chat to introduce yourself to everyone. Otherwise, I may just go down the list and just call on folks just to give a little introduction to themselves. And so, Alana, you're first on my alphabetical list.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so hi, my name is Alana Todd. I am a senior environmental planner at the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. My background, I did my studies in environmental science and also anthropology, including my graduate work as well. And I focused on the co-production of environmental knowledge with community stakeholders. Now, as an environmental planner, do a lot of coordinating of meetings with our agency on management, work in stormwater issues, deal with a lot of resiliencies as a focus now at our organization. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thanks. Allison.
Hey, everyone. My name is Allison Adams. I'm at the University of Florida in the School of Forest Fisheries and Geomatic Sciences, and I'm also appointed to the School of Natural Resources and Environment. I'm an environmental sociologist, and a lot of my work focuses on environmental justice.
Great, thanks. Amanda.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Amanda Hoffman Hall. I'm joining you today from Eckerd College, the environmental studies discipline, and I am an assistant professor there where I study environmental health, environmental justice, and also do a little bit of satellite data analysis. So excited to be here. Thanks, Blake.
Thanks. Angie.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry, I can't seem to get my camera to turn on. I'm Angie Lindsay. I'm at the University of Florida in the Department of Family, Youth, and Community Sciences, but I also had an appointment within the Center for Public Issues Education, affectionately known as the PI Center. I work with disaster communication and disaster resilience after disaster. So I do a lot of work with communities after disaster. So happy to be here. Thanks.
Angie. Charles.
Hi, I'm Charles Wallace. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Florida. My research is based in local knowledge and natural resource management, as well as social learning and stakeholder engagements as well.
Great, thanks. Chris.
Hello, Chris Crowder, PhD student at the University of Central Florida, doing stuff with habitat mosaic modeling. I actually do that with Carrie and Marcus, and then also FWC. And I'm also interested in community thoughts on fishing regulations.
Christian.
Hi, sorry I'm late. I was coming from court. My name is Christian Wells. I'm a professor of anthropology and director of the Center for Brownfields Research and Redevelopment at the University of South Florida. And I work primarily with underserved communities in the Tampa Bay area experiencing environmental justice issues.
Thanks. Colin.
Hi, I'm Colin Smith. I'm Associate Professor of Social Psychology at University of Florida. My training is in implicit attitudes and persuasion. I do a little bit of stuff in political psychology about sort of who hears what kind of messages. And I've also started working with the Florida Institute of Built Environment Resilience here at UF. So that's moved me into this space. So I look forward to learning a lot from all of you. Thank you.
Thanks. Damien.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Damien Contessa from the University of Tampa. I did my PhD work at the University of South Florida where my PhD was looking mostly at the causes and consequences of narratives around wildlife. And I'm really passionate about teaching students and teaching about sustainability. So I'm happy to be here and to contribute what I can. Thank you.
Thanks, Damien. Debbie.
Good morning. I'm Debbie Hosvaughn. I'm a professor and program coordinator for the Methodology, Measurement, and Analysis program at the University of Central Florida. And I'm a quantitative methodologist, so am interested in how quantitative methodologies can be applied to the research that is going on with the Tampa Bay project.
Eric.
Hi, I'm at Florida Gulf Coast University. I study water policy and history, and I'm a faculty affiliate at FGC's Water School.
Great. Thanks. Erin Westgate. No, Erin, I can't see the chat. So Erin, if you haven't already, please feel free to. Oh, there you go.
I had my microphone off. I'm also a social psychologist at the University of Florida. Hi, Colin. I see you. My work broadly focuses on emotion and social cognition with sort of more of a focus on boredom, interest, and thinking, and both why it's so hard for us and how to make us better at it, including in the context of public outreach and education.
Thanks, Erin. Feng. Maybe no Feng. Feng, please feel free to introduce yourself in the comments. Let's go. Oh, maybe we have Feng.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hey, this is Feng. I'm an associate professor of sociology at USF. My work is more likely to analyze the human factors that contribute to climate change. I'm looking forward to work with you all for this important committee. Thank you.
Thanks, Feng. Frank.
Hi, my name is Frank D. John, and I work for the Fish and Wildlife Research Institute. I'm a biological scientist within the Fisheries Dependent Monitoring section, and I manage the day-to-day operations of the State Reef Fish Survey, processing responses, doing QA, QC, and conducting analysis and different coding programs. And I also collect biological samples from recreational anglers around the Tampa Bay area. like otoliths and fin clips and things like that.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Young Park.
Hi, I'm Jan May. I'm the program coordinator of sociology at Florida Gulf Coast University, and I'm an environmental sociologist. My current work looks at disasters, working on a book proposal for how pandemics fit into that. I'm looking forward to building connections here with other social scientists.
Thanks, Jan. Hyung Park. Oh, I think you're muted. If you want, I still can't hear you, but if you want, you can just type in the chat to introduce everyone. Let's see, Jamie Rogers.
Hi everyone, I'm Jamie. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of South Florida. I'm an archaeologist studying oyster harvesting and management over the last 2,000 years in Tampa Bay.
Jennifer Friedman. You know Jennifer. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Let's go, Jesse Sherry.
Hello, I'm Jesse Sherry. I'm an associate professor of environmental studies at Eckerd College, and I focus on sustainable communities. Most of my research has been with eco-villages and other kind of small-scale environmentally focused communities.
Thanks. Jonah.
Hi, my name is Jonah Mick. I'm currently working with the City of Plant City, and I have a background in environmental policy. I'm also one of the early adopters trying to apply behavioral science to environmental projects, in this government context. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Christy. Christy, oh, I just saw the chat. Okay. Christy has introduced herself in the chat. Next on my list, Laurel.
Hi, I'm Laurel Graham. I'm at the University of South Florida in sociology. I'm interested in sustainable consumption and study families and food management practices primarily.
Great. Lenka.
Hello, my name is Lenka. I have a background in strategic planning, program and funding development, strategic communications, currently a consultant in those areas, and also in a graduate program at University of Florida in public interest communications, which combines behavioral science and strategic communications to bring about social change and behavior change. So I'm very interested in the application of that to environmental science. So very, very thrilled to hear everybody that's here. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa.
Morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Swanger. I am over in Delaware. I am the Director of Outreach and Education at the Delaware Center for the Inland Bays, so one of the 28 National Estuary Programs. My background's in marine resource management with a particular focus in the human dimensions surrounding resource management. So I'm very excited to be here and really see this as a great opportunity for tech transfer across NEPs. So looking forward to working with you.
Martha.
I'm Martha Maxwell Doyle. I'm with the Partnership for the Delaware Estuary, a sister program to LISA. We're a tri-state NEP. I'm the program director, and my area is climate change, resiliency, mitigation, and also the intersection between science and policy.
Thanks, Martha. Nia.
Hi, I'm Nia Morales. I am an assistant professor in the wildlife department at University of Florida. And my general interests are diversity, equity, inclusion, conservation, and stakeholder engagement.
Thanks, Nia. Noelle. I can't hear you, Noel, but I see that you're unmuted. Still can't hear you. It looks like you're talking, but I still can't hear you. I'll go ahead and move on, but go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat. Nona.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nona Stutzman. I'm an environmental scientist at the Southwest Florida Water Management District, and I help to review permits to ensure activities are not negatively impacting our water resources. And I also have a background in global sustainability, specifically looking at water sustainability and ecotourism.
Great, thanks. Paul. Oh, I also can't hear you, Paul, but I see that you're unmuted. Interesting. Okay. Maybe go ahead, just introduce yourself in the chat, and we'll move on. Rachel.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. I'm glad I'm not the only one having microphone issues. But my name is Rachel Kangas. I work with the Florida Public Archaeology Network that our region is based at the University of South Florida. I'm an archaeologist and I work in science communication, education, and outreach. And we do a lot of work at FPAN with climate change planning and disaster response, specifically with cultural resources. We work really closely with communities and also with partner organizations all over the state to help folks understand how archaeology and history can play an active role in creating our future.
Great, thanks, Rachel. Stacy.
Hi, my name is Stacy Barber. I'm a professor of anthropology at the University of Central Florida and also with the National Center for Integrated Social Research. I'm an archaeologist interested in long-term human relationships with coastal ecosystems, so how humans impact and protect ecosystems over very long millennial scale periods of time. I do research in the Indian River Lagoon in a collaboration with the Space Force over at Cape Canaveral, and then also on the Pacific coast of Mexico. Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy. Todd.
Hi, my name's Todd McElroy. I work at Florida Gulf Coast University. I study human decision making with a background in social psychology.
Thanks, Todd. Tom.
Hi, Tom Pluckon. I'm a professor of anthropology at the University of South Florida, and my current research is focusing on the historical ecology of Tampa Bay from ancient times to the recent past.
Thanks, Tom. Uzi. Later. I see that you've gone off mute. I can't hear you. Maybe just go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. Laura Warner.
Hey everybody, good morning. I'm Laura Warner. I'm an associate professor and extension specialist at the University of Florida here in Gainesville. I'm a horticulturist turned social scientist, and I'm really interested in behavior change, especially in urban landscapes. I do quantitative research to understand adoption of best practices that affect water conservation and quality and translate those into behavior change strategies. Looking forward to meeting you all.
Thanks, Laura. Gessert.
Yes, hello, good morning. This is Yasser Gonzalez. It says webcam limit reached, I guess. so that won't be happening. But I'm with the Planning Commission. I'm an economist, and I've been doing this for nearly 20 years here, over 20 years. And again, I'm just a partial data evangelist, just, do a lot of, Python work and a lot of, again, just looking at long-range forecasts for various across the state. Thank you.
Thanks, Yasser. And Krista Court, you have somehow made it to the bottom of my alphabetical list, but nevertheless, Krista.
Very strange. I'm Krista Court. I'm an assistant professor in the Food and Resource Economics Department at the University of Florida, and I also direct the Economic Impact Analysis Program. And we've been doing a lot of work looking at the impacts of water quality changes over the last several years.
Thanks, Krista. And thank you, everyone. I think that's everyone on the end of my alphabetical list. If I've missed anybody, please introduce yourself in the chat, or if you came in sort of after the alphabetical list I had gone through, please introduce yourself. That's actually great that Krista was our last speaker, because the next thing that I would like everyone to do is to help us vote for are the chairs of our social science subcommittee. So we have two people have nominated themselves, and so we can either have one of them as the chair, or they can both serve as co-chairs, or you could also not want either of them. But so we have Dr. Jan Martin May. So as he said, he's a professor at the Florida Gulf Coast University, and Dr. Krista Court that we just heard from at UF IFAS. And so just to give you sort of an overview, the responsibility of our chair or co-chairs is to pretty much just review the agenda items that we create for the subcommittee, so that they can help us identify relevant topics for all of our members. They'll help sort of demonstrate leadership for the subcommittee and help recruit and retain participants, making sure that meetings run smoothly, and they'll sort of help TBEP staff in sort of coordinating any training activities or the development or implementation of some of the different projects that we have. So what I would like is, so we would like to have a majority vote in favor of our nominees. And so what you can do is, if you go to, you can either scan this QR code on your screen or go to menti.com here. And then once you get to menti.com, you'll enter in this 8-digit code. And then you'll be able to vote for both of them, for one of them, or for if you want to vote someone else as a potential committee chair. But so we're looking for a majority to vote on who you guys want to have as the chair or co-chairs of the committee. So I'll give you all a minute or so. Please cast your vote for our co-chair nominations. And let me know if you have any trouble accessing the Menti survey. See if this has refreshed. All right. Oh, come back, please. All right, so to have a majority, each person does need to have 23 votes. And so I see that both of our candidates here have surpassed that. So I would like to offer that our co-chairs officially for the Social Science Subcommittee are Dr. May and Dr. Court. So thank you both for volunteering. I think you have very complementary expertise, and really looking forward to working with you all, and your sort of leadership that I think will be really useful for the Social Science Subcommittee. These are sort of open-ended term dates, so if you feel like you're ready to pass the torch, or if anyone else has interest over time, definitely please keep in touch and let me know. And with that, we are going to sort of move on to our first agenda item. The meeting materials link was a bit funky, and so a lot of people weren't able to access the materials for this meeting. So I'm just going to pop in the chat a link where you can sort of see the presentations for this meeting as well as the agenda that we have. But first up on our agenda is Ed Sherwood, our Executive Director, and he's going to give an overview of what the Tampa Bay Estuary Program is and how we operate. So I'll hand it over to Ed.
Thanks, Blake. I think someone has to hand over control or give me presenter control to pop up my screen.
Yes, you should be good to go now. Yep, all good.
All right, you guys see my screen? You hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. So again, I want to thank everyone for taking the time this afternoon to kind of go through these intros as well as learn about our program and this social science research initiative that we're just starting to kick off with the skill and acumen of Dr. Blake Simmons. You heard probably from several folks online that there are other national estuary programs represented within the subcommittee. So we want to really utilize the subcommittee both towards the interests of the Tampa Bay Estuary Program, but the broader interests of the subcommittee members. So the overview I'm going to present is basically going to be centric towards Tampa Bay specific issues and things that we've been working on, but really want to make this group open and inclusive and make sure that we're learning from each other along the way. Also, just for a little bit of background on myself, I started as a fisheries biologist, so basically as a natural resource manager, and came to the same recognition that Blake kind of expressed during his evolution of his career, is that wasn't really managing fish, it was managing people. And our work now to better restore and protect Tampa Bay is very much focused on the larger 3.1 million people that now live, work, and play in the watershed. So that's sort of where we're coming from in terms of developing these initiatives, and again, look for your guys' input as we develop different priorities. So just a little bit of background and of our organization and how we are authorized. We're actually embedded within the Clean Water Act, either through a gubernatorial nomination or an act of Congress. We have been designated as an estuary of national significance. And that act also outlines sort of how we develop as a program in terms of from the ground up, being developed from a management conference that is closest to the issues. But we also rely heavily on cost sharing from the federal government. So we have appropriations from Congress each year that we leverage with local resources to implement a comprehensive plan for our special place, the Tampa Bay Estuary. And luckily, we've gotten fairly good bipartisan support, and we've been reauthorized through 2026 as one of the few federal programs that is authorized for appropriations through Congress. So again, that's the sort of the foundation of how we started as a program. And you heard as we went through the introductions, there's several national estuary programs represented within the subcommittee. We're one of 28. Our designation came back in 1991, and common to all the estuary programs is the development of what we call our comprehensive conservation and management plan, or when you hear us say CCMP, that's basically the plan that we're tasked with developing as an estuary program. We're actually under our third iteration of that plan in 2017, so we've gone through several updates. And as I mentioned, we're a partnership organization that are very reliant on others to help us implement that plan. I answer to basically city council members as well as commissioners represented within our watershed. So there's 4 county governments and 3 city governments, as well as resource management agencies in the state, the Florida DEP and the Southwest Florida Water Management District, and the US EPA represented on my policy board. And basically those are the folks I report to. And again, our mission as a program is to develop partnerships that span not only folks within the region, but the broader environmental management community to get our bay back on track using science to inform our management and restoration initiatives. That CCMP is fairly comprehensive. It's over 100 60 some odd pages, and there are about 39 different actions and about 166 different activities. But they're basically boiled down to these three program priorities, of which we focus most of our work and effort. So, we're very interested in improving cleaning waters and sediments, also trying to restore as much habitats for the benefit of the wildlife represented in our estuary. And then the key one where we're looking for, again, to build and grow within the Social Science Research Subcommittee, looking for ways to better inform, engage, and promote a more responsible community living within the watershed, so that the natural beauty and splendor of our estuary national significance persist into the future. So there's a link there if you want to get more details on that comprehensive management plan. But again, our actions and priorities kind of boil down into these three programmatic priorities. And as I mentioned, we are a partnership organization, so we're very reliant on organizations outside of our program. We're only a staff of 8, so we have formulated several different committees, subcommittees, and working groups. Basically, those committees, course consortiums, and working groups all provide input to us as program staff, and that funnels up through what we have as a management board, which formally makes recommendations to our policy board, which is those elected officials of the governments represented in our watershed. And that structure is somewhat similar across the national estuary programs in terms of having like a TAC and a technical advisory committee and a community advisory committee, as well as a management and policy board. But that's basically our overall governance structure. And depending on the issue, each subcommittee or working group would be sort of providing recommendations to our staff that would funnel up through that approval process. So very much sort of a ground up process in terms of managing the Bay and also formulating policies for the betterment of the Bay. So in that work, we also attempt to sort of synthesize a bunch of information to kind of relay where the state of our estuary is. So each of the estuary programs develops what's called the State of the Bay report or State of the Estuaries report. Our last one covered the 2019 through 2021 period. And we are facing some fairly wicked issues in our watershed now, as well as along much of the coast throughout the nation. We continue to have issues related to continued coastal and urbanization and development in our watershed. So the urgency of restoration is fairly profound as we continue to kind of lose the space where we could do this work. And then, one of our primary things, that first bullet point, is that we've started to see some water quality issues that are affecting significant habitats like seagrasses in the upper Tampa Bay. And this has sort of been a key sort of a restoration goal that we've established from the program since our inception of trying to maintain a persistent amount of habitats throughout Tampa Bay. And because of these sort of issues that we're now facing, we also have garnered a lot of additional community support, and we're trying to focus that energy and direct that energy towards actions that would have immediate benefits towards the Bay's ecology. And that's where this Social Science Research Subcommittee kind of comes in. We've started down the path of trying to develop different community actions and behavior changes that would have a benefit for the Bay, but I wouldn't necessarily say we've done a good job of tracking particular metrics or sort of how these actually manifest in behavior change in that broader 3.1 million populace that lives within the watershed. So the examples I have up here are basically some of the recommendations that we provide to our community members. But again, we want to be more intentional in how we develop these messages, as well as more intentional on how we assess their effectiveness in the future. One of our marquee programs that have gone down this path of trying to use better informed messages using focus groups or the community at large was our bee fluoriding campaign. And this was in response to several of our local governments enacting fertilizer regulations during the summer rainy season. And the campaign was developed with focus on encouraging folks to enjoy the splendor of the estuary rather than, to do yard work or fertilize, especially during their summer rainy season where there's a greater propensity of that fertilizer washing off in the bay and having harmful ecological effects. So this campaign was sort of our straddling the social science research and goes back to around the 2010 period, and it's been implemented ever since in our watershed. Um, and with sort of this renewed interest of building compelling stories that would invoke some sort of behavior change, we've developed some specific strategies that will involve a subcommittee such as yours, as well as Marcus Beck mentioned, using more open and transparent methods to develop that science. So as we kind of develop this messaging, involve more stakeholders, focus groups, or make different assessments on the initiatives that we're developing that are involving the community, I want to make sure that that work is open and transparent and that there's a clear connection with the science and sort of the management and policy that develops from them. So the two highlighted cornerstone strategies in our latest strategic plan kind of touch on where this subcommittee will help us out and move the program forward in sort of being a leader on these initiatives and involving the community a lot more effectively than we have in the past. And again, that's where that nexus with this subcommittee that we're hoping to get out of as a program, basically receiving input from experts to provide us with better guidance and direction towards understanding the human dimensions of Tampa Bay social and ecological systems. Again, our focus as the Tampa Bay Estuary Program is toward implementation of that management plan. So we're always going to kind of, prod out some our programmatic priorities, but we also want to hear from this group of other things that we're not thinking about, because we go through an iterative process of updating that management plan, and this subcommittee would add value in terms of that future update of our management plan moving forward. But ultimately, using open science and those evidence-based storytelling practices, we're hoping to reach better outcomes, particularly as it relates to the community at large in the Tampa Bay watershed. One example of that is a newer behavior change campaign that we've been spinning up, and this was in response to several sanitary sewer overflows that have occurred in our watershed, and trying to raise awareness about the issues of failing private laterals. That's the pipe that connects your home to central sewer systems that are operated by the public. And the initiative is getting homeowners to either inspect, repair, or replace suspected failing private laterals. So the outcome we're trying to achieve is, fixing those issues that we know are in the watershed effectively through these campaigns. And we're hoping through more intentional social science research that our campaigns will be developed in this manner with these sort of outcomes in mind. And ultimately, as I mentioned, one of the outcomes we have as a guiding principle for our estuary program is the recovery of seagrass coverage in Tampa Bay. We've long been known for being a success story in that manner, and that we reached the seagrass coverage goal in 2016 that we established back in the early 1990s. But since that time, we've seen some losses of seagrass coverage, and this all plays into sort of how we live within the watershed, both our nutrient footprints, both personally and collectively, as well as the choices we make in terms of the land use decisions and how we manage our continued coastal development along the coast. So we think, this outcome is ultimately what we have in mind of reversing the sort of negative coverage and decrease we've seen lately and getting it back above that bright red line. And to us, that would be sort of a success of better involving the community in the restoration of the bay. So, as you all know, and some of the backgrounds I heard during the introductions, it's not only sort of the environmental things that we're concerned about. It's basically what what the environment relays to the human populace throughout the region. So there are economic incentives to keeping the bay healthy and having these habitats persist um, throughout the course of the future. And the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council has helped us out with a recent economic evaluation study that kind of relays what those economic benefits are of a clean and healthy Tampa Bay. And it basically boils down to 1 in 10 jobs, or about 32.1 billion in annual output to the region. So, these investments in clean waters and healthy habitats, and investing in education and awareness campaigns that will hopefully foster behavior change, will ultimately end up as an economic incentive for the region that we're also trying to relay to the community as well. So kind of boils down my quick overview of the program and sort of the priorities that we're hoping the subcommittee will help us out with. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but that was a fairly quick overview.
Thanks, Ed. And does anyone have any questions for Ed about what TBEP does, our mission? Any questions? Feel free to raise your hand or jump in. All right, great. Well, very nice overview, very clear presentation, Ed. To sort of continue on in our discussion of the estuary program and the different things that we do, next on the agenda, we have Sheila. Sheila will talk about some of the outreach and education projects that we have here at the estuary program.
Thanks, Blake. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Cool. Once again, everybody, I'm Sheila Scalaro. I'm the community program scientist. And so Ed talked about, or did a great intro of all the work that we're doing here at the estuary program and the different things that we're focusing on. But really, I'm going to focus on our community engagement and sort of the different programs that we have to engage the community. So we have 3 major programs that we use to engage community members, and those boil down to our Give a Day for the Bay opportunities. So these are our half-day volunteer events, and then we also are expanding participatory science as well as experiential education. So our Give a Day for the Bay events, these have been going on for since the program's inception. And so these are really half-day volunteer work days. We use these really to help support our various partners throughout the watershed and helping them accomplish some of the restoration projects that they have going on in their individual municipalities. So as I mentioned, half-day volunteer work days, and these involve typically like trash cleanup, beach cleanups, cleaning up mangroves, those types of things. We also do a lot of native species plantings. We've done some seed harvests where we'll take seeds of native plants from a restoration area and then disperse those in like new restoration areas. And then we also do invasive species removal. We have a big problem in our watershed with Brazilian pepper. So we bring out volunteers to help us chop down some of those Brazilian peppers. All of these events, lunch is included. It's kind of that sweat equity. You work and sweat for the bay, and then we'll give you some lunch at the end. And because it's really hot down here, we only usually do these events October through June. So we are actually about to start gearing up for our next season of Give a Day events. So we do have a very large watershed. Our watershed incorporates parts of about 6 different counties. So I try to have like one event in each municipality or each county. So we get spread pretty thin, and mainly the focus for these of like prioritizing specific areas has been on focusing on like what our partners need. So our partners have really guided where and what types of projects we've done in the past. So one of the kind of up next, the new projects that we're taking on is this Tampa Bay Debris Derby. And this is a project that I'm really excited about. It's, again, one of those volunteer opportunities. But this is kind of a different take on it. It's a trash collection tournament. And we're actually partnering with some private industry leaders. So like Power Pole and Skinny Water Culture, which is a clothing company in Tampa Bay. And then some breweries and some restaurants. So really, we're hoping to incentivize people and community members to come out and be part of the restoration. So they go clean up the bay for a bit of time, and then they have opportunities to win really, really awesome prizes from Power Pole and Costa. There's beer packages, and we're hoping to get some other organizations involved. And then another one of our programs for expanding community engagement is through participatory science or citizen science. So we're really hoping to get folks more involved in the actual data collection process. So yeah, so we've done quite a few of these projects in the past. One of the biggest ones that we've done here in Tampa Bay is the Great Bay Scallop Search, which is led by one of our partners at the Tampa Bay Watch. So this is where community members go out and they snorkel through the seagrass beds and they count up how many bay scallops that they find. And this is really what we use at the estuary program for our bay scallop numbers. So to understand the bay scallop population in Tampa Bay, which is one of our indicators. So we're hoping to really expand this participatory science in the future. I'm going to be working on developing a macroalgae monitoring program. So to really help use the citizens to increase their awareness of some of the issues that are happening in Tampa Bay, but also to help us fill some of those science gaps within the program. And then the last major community engagement program that we've started, and we're still building this out, is our experiential education program. And so this is a new program, and we're hoping to provide opportunities for the community members to just come out and fall in love with the Bay. So it's more of those kind of informal education opportunities. So we've done a few guided kayak tours in the past. So we actually pay for a kayak guide and for all of the kayaks, so community members can go out, hit the water, and then we have staff sort of dispersed within the group so that we can have these informal conversations about different habitats or different species that we're seeing, and kind of just answer some of the questions that community members might have. So far we've done primarily guided kayak tours. So we've done bioluminescence paddles to raise awareness about some of the harmful algae blooms that we're experiencing in Old Tampa Bay. We've done full moon paddles. And up next, we're hoping to get people out on some guided hikes so that they understand that Tampa Bay is more than just the water, but it's also the watershed as a whole. And that's just a quick, brief overview, but I want to leave time for Blake and others. So with that, I will take any questions.
Thanks, Sheila. Anyone have any questions about the different outreach and education projects that we have?
Can I ask a quick question, Blake?
Yeah.
So Sheila, could you just talk a little bit about how you decide on the specific programs and like if you're open to partnerships for expanding some of these?
Absolutely. I'm totally open to expanding all of these and incorporating new partners. So if you're interested in working with me, I would absolutely love to work with you. I'll throw my email in the chat so that we can connect offline.
Nia, I think, has a question.
Yep. Hey, Sheila, thanks for that. Do you do any evaluation on any of those programs? And if so, what kind of things do you tend to measure?
We haven't done any specific evaluation of like the effectiveness, which I know that Blake, that's something that he's hoping to incorporate into his social science projects in the next several years. So I think that that's definitely something that we're willing and interested in expanding and the different things that we should be measuring. So if you have any ideas for how we could be better at measuring the effectiveness of those programs, I would be all ears. Currently, the metrics that we're tracking are pretty simple. The number of people that are attending, and for our restoration projects, it's some of those more restoration metrics.
If there are no more questions, Sheila will sort of be around a little bit, and so yeah, there will be more time for discussion and things like that at the end of the meeting if you want to reach out. So thanks, Sheila. I'm going to hand it over now to Jessica Lewis, and so she can talk about some of the different funding opportunities available from the estuary program.
Hello again. Blake, can you make me presenter? I'm going to screen share some of the website stuff. So, hi everyone. We've talked about some of the great work that we have going on, and I just wanted to talk about how we fund some of those things and some of the opportunities that you might be able to take advantage of. So first here, this is our website. I'm going to put this in the chat for you. Here you can see that we have a couple of different grant programs. I'm going to talk about the Bay Mini Grant first. So the Mini Grant is a small grant. It's up to $5,000 for projects that engage the public in habitat restoration or water quality improvement of some sort. It's really about getting people out there, increasing science literacy, giving them some hands-on opportunities or learning opportunities. And we just closed the application period for the Bay Mini Grant this year, but this comes around every year. So if you are interested in doing some sort of community engagement project, some sort of habitat restoration project that's on a smaller scale, up to $5,000 in funding, definitely let me know. I'd love to chat with you ahead of next year when this will open up. And if you go to this website, you can see a lot more details here and some of the past projects, and also that we get funding for this program from the Tarpon Tag. So that is our Bay Mini Grant program, super briefly. We also have the Tampa Bay Environmental Restoration Fund. So this is a program that provides funding for water quality improvement projects, habitat restoration, applied research, which may be of particular interest to y'all, and education priorities that are in that document that Ed mentioned, the Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan for Tampa Bay. This is a partnership with an organization called Restore America's Estuaries, and the projects range roughly $25,000 to about $250,000. So it's a little bit larger than the mini grant. It's still not a huge amount of funding, but it is definitely usable for some of these projects that y'all may be interested in. So check that out as well. This will open in January. Applications will be due by mid-March. So if you have something in mind and you want to chat about it, I definitely encourage you to reach out and let me know. Let's just go over some of the options that you have there. And of course, I can't get back. What I wanted to also go over, it's not going to be on the website, but our work plan that we get funding from the EPA, that's our annual funding mechanism via the Clean Water Act. So that is not a competitive grant program, but that's something that if you propose a project to us, we can review it, potentially partner on it. So that is just a program that's not a grant, but it is an opportunity for funding good work as well. Then I'm going to go back here to where we just were. So we talked about Bay mini grants really briefly, Tampa Bay Estuary or Tampa Bay Environmental Restoration Fund really briefly. If you're interested in either of those, please do reach out. I'd love to talk to you about your project. But also anytime you can submit a project concept here. So if you've got a loose idea or a scope of work, or you want to submit a letter of intent, you can do that here anytime, but you're also welcome to just call me or email me anytime as well. So we have a few different funding opportunities, as you can see from this, and I just wanted to make you aware of those. If any of this sounds interesting to you, I'm going to drop my email address in the chat. I'd love to talk to you about potentially applying for any of these projects. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. That was a very sort of quick overview. Usually we have, I think also they can access on the website, there's like past, hour-long or maybe even more, webinars for just like getting into the nitty-gritty details about the Bay Mini Grant and the T-BERF applications. So there are more resources available, but if anyone has any questions for Jessica regarding those sort of funding opportunities, raise your hand.
I'm also curious if anyone has an idea that immediately comes to mind, so feel free to shout it out as well. Nobody wants money? Come on, guys. Everybody wants money. So I
Nia,
also,
I
yeah,
was
go
just
ahead.
going to ask, I think Nia, your hand might still be left over from the last
Oh
one.
yeah,
But
sorry, I need to lower it.
So the other thing to mention about the funding opportunities is even if you're not particularly interested in applying, we do have the mini grants, for instance, are reviewed by the Community Advisory Committee. The Tampa Bay Environmental Restoration Fund projects are reviewed by the people who submit funding for that program. But we're always looking for people who have expertise that may be something that I don't. So I could reach out to this committee and say, hey, somebody proposed this project. Can you give me, your thoughts on it? Or people may even come to this committee meeting and say, I'm thinking about applying for one of these grant opportunities and want feedback from y'all. So you could participate in some of these grant opportunities in more ways than one. You could participate as an applicant, potential partner with someone, or just giving people feedback on their draft plans as well.
great. Thanks, Jessica.
Yeah.
So yeah, feel free to shoot Jessica an email if you have any questions or additional follow-up that you'd like to have on that. So with that, we'll now sort of move on. You've gotten sort of a general idea of, what the estuary program is, the types of things that we do. And so now I want to shift the focus now to thinking about the future and sort of what's to come, and especially the opportunities for you all to sort of integrate with the things that we have on our current agenda. But we're also looking now, ahead, upcoming grants that we have coming that we'd really like to find some partnerships with, and sort of more long-term planning and opportunities for all of you to sort of see where our headspace is, the immediate directions that we're thinking of going, but also letting, some stuff kind of percolate, and you can think about where there are sort of overlaps with your interests and your directions as well. So first off, just kind of reiterating again, kind of what Ed mentioned earlier, just thinking about, what is it that we'd really like out of members' involvement in the social science subcommittee. So we are really looking for you all to help provide recommendations on our research, education, and outreach priorities that can help us achieve our conservation and management goals. specifically through that lens of social science theory and practice. We are open to anybody is welcome to join the social science subcommittee and hop on the email list. We are really just hoping that this is a forum for people with expertise in social science, whether they're from academia, private or governmental sectors or wherever. But also we have a lot of community members that maybe aren't experts in social science, but they say this is relevant to us. We have issues on the ground, and so we'd really like to voice, our concerns and would like for, insights from experts on how to address some of the problems they're facing. All of this participation is on an ad hoc basis. We understand that people are very busy with their times and, and schedules. And so, we just ask that you sort of stay on top of kind of agenda items and things that are coming up and participate as you feel is relevant or appropriate to you. If you find that, an agenda for an upcoming meeting maybe isn't, that's very relevant to you, or you don't feel like, you could contribute too much, you don't have to feel compelled, to come to every meeting. We just ask that, you keep in touch, keep abreast of kind of what's going on, and if you have expertise to offer, or if there's an opportunity to align with your interests or your plans for the future, we'd love to have you participate and give us guidance, feedback, and potential strategies for moving forward. And yeah, in terms of responsibilities, we'd love for all of you to, provide reviews on agenda items that we have in future meetings, to actively participate. For those of you watching at home, if you can't participate in this live space, feel free, any of the commentary or discussions that we have in these meetings, you can always continue those in an email or through one-on-one meetings with us. We just love to stay in touch and keep the conversation going. We'd love for our diverse members to help us develop, collaborative grant proposals that align with our interests, but that also can align with your interests and your goals, especially for your labs. If you've got, graduate students, undergraduate students, there's too much work that I want to do that just, with a staff of 8 people, we just can't do. So, the opportunities are sort of endless. If you just, if you would just like to have someone do something, we will have a project somewhere that they could do if they're willing to take it on. And also, helping to sort of facilitate any training events or other development activities in the community that's really sort of about building capacity in workforces or in the communities around social science research or integration. And then, just most importantly, for all of our members, just to, sort of serve as champions of, our core environmental and human well-being values and the priorities that we have within the community. But it's not just about us. So we want to make sure that you all have a benefit from it. And many of you filled out that form that I sent around, a month or 2 ago that was really sort of wanted to gauge, what is it that you all hope to gain out of this? And so I just wanted to share with you some of the things that you all mentioned that you would like to get out of this. And so, a lot of you said, sort of just generally, you're here to sort of help support the Tampa Bay Estuary Program and the things that we do. You're interested in learning more about the Estuary Program. Hopefully, a lot of that has been satiated today. But also, we've got a bunch of other estuary programs that are interested in learning what it is that the Tampa Bay is doing and how we can sort of align our visions and our research projects. A lot of you also expressed opportunities to get involved more with the community. And so whether that's, taking, your research into actual communities or to get feedback from communities that help guide what it is that you're doing and, coming up with sort of co-development, right, of sort of more participatory community-led research programs or other sort of interventions that you have. Also sort of thinking more kind of programmatically. A lot of you said that you'd love to be able to identify, or co-develop new projects for funding, help sort of increase the visibility of social science, right? Trying to it's in academia, I think it's becoming a bit more common for social science to start getting integrated right into the environmental space and other disciplines. But in practice and in many organizations, it's still, social science is still very much siloed if it is applied at all. So finding out how we can incorporate social science into research and planning efforts in the community, and also across all of our national estuary programs, enhancing this integration of the social and ecological sciences. Other practical sort of things that many of the subcommittee members mentioned. So not just a place for you to offer your own expertise, but this is a place for everyone to learn from one another. So we've got a diverse group of people here, and so we can all learn new ways to do research, new methods, new ways of doing things. Some folks specifically said they really wanted to integrate more behavioral science into their work that they do, thinking about what new tools or methods can we use. Hopefully with our programs focus on open science and open data, hopefully we can serve as a useful tool to help start thinking about how do we sort of democratize social science data, thinking about like interactive dashboards and sort of things like that are tools that at least we as an SRA program can also offer to all of you. And then again, I think, this was probably one of the most common responses, especially from our researchers at universities here, is finding opportunities for students to work on projects, whether it's PhD or master's students, even undergrad students, opportunities for internships. So we do have internships, both paid and unpaid, that we can do here at the Estuary program. And then, there's lots of volunteering events, as you can guess from Sheila's presentation. On the research angle, we had a lot of people mentioning that we wanted to advance social and behavioral science in the region, making sure that we can demonstrate the importance of social sciences for the Bay. So really starting that change-making process and making this a real staple of social and ecological research in the Bay. A lot of you mentioned that the stuff that you work on, a lot of it is theory, or maybe it's piloted through like university students or certain audiences that then sort of need to be translated into a real world setting, right? And so this is an opportunity for us to create that bridge from theory into practice, and hopefully creating real on-ground impact from the work that we all do together. And many of you said we want to help shape the future development of Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is increasing in population, urban sprawl is increasing, urban intensity. I don't think there's much, despite what's going to be happening with climate change, it doesn't seem like there's any sort of slowing down of development. And so really having an opportunity here for us to help guide the future of Tampa Bay and where it's headed. And then last thing, is really just about the subcommittee as a new network for folks. I know whenever I started here, moved here from Colorado, and I was like, okay, let me find out, who the social scientists are, what work has already been being done. And I found that it was difficult to really sort of find people. And also, when I would find people and talk to them about projects that have been going on elsewhere, there wasn't too much cross communication that was going on. And so really, I'm glad this is a shared goal for all of you, as it is for me, but it's to really sort of help us build connections, create new collaborations and partnerships between people that have different experiences and expertise, but a shared interest and kind of common vision for the environment. And so being able to build those networks, participating in different speaking, training, or planning efforts that we have. Some of you are interested in learning, from about organizational perspectives, or maybe government perspectives, or academic perspectives. All those sorts of things we can all kind of offer to one another. And also thinking about, being able to identify where the knowledge gaps are, the research gaps, and those sorts of things, right? So getting different perspectives to find out what needs to be done, and where we can sort of localize our efforts. So all of that said, kind of where do we go, and how do I want to start get planting the seeds into all of your heads about where you can fit in, where there's interests and overlaps with the goals of the estuary program. And so just this year, we updated our research and monitoring priorities. And so you'll see in the agenda, there's like a link that takes you to all of our proposed 2023 updates to all of our research and monitoring priorities. And here I've just pulled out ones that with a specifically social science focus, but feel free to look at all of our monitoring and research priorities if you want. But so just to highlight some of the things that are on the horizon for us. One of them, quantifying the social and ecological benefits of critical coastal habitats across the bay. So Ed showed a slide earlier that looked at some economic valuations of the services provided by Tampa Bay. So that was led by Alana Todd, who's here with us today, and other members of the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council through a TBRF grant. And so that's looking at, costing the benefits of flood protection and property value, amenity impacts, and different things like that. But we want to sort of continue that conversation and start thinking about, how do we quantify the cultural services that the Bay provides? Can we attribute monetary valuation to the mental health benefits of getting to experience nature, or the exercise value of being able to run or play in a park, or all of these other sort of ways of thinking about how do we quantify the benefits that our natural environment provides. And so I've just given, for each of these priorities, I've just given a few sort of examples, snapshots of some things that can apply, especially when we think about the equity strategy that we have here in place, recognizing that we definitely want to have a better understanding of how our interventions benefit communities, and so that we can track, especially for underserved and overburdened communities, how those benefits are reaching them. Some other priorities that we have, evaluating community awareness, understanding, and perceptions of the state of the Bay and the services that it provides. And so this is, getting an idea of where is the community at? How much do they know about these issues? How do they understand it? Maybe they know about it, but maybe they're not, understanding it right, or they're getting information from all these different places, right? And so we need to kind of, how do we track where their level of understanding is with some of these, and how does that influence, their perceptions or their attitudes about how the Bay is doing and the types of services that it provides. So thinking about, new or existing social indicators for tracking people's understanding or knowledge over time, or their attitudes over the time, the importance of experiences and storytelling, and how do we make environmental messages, especially like nitrogen pollution messages, more salient to people's knowledge of the health of the Bay. We also want to work more on characterizing the diversity of Bay users, their behaviors, and the dynamics of the broader social ecological network in Tampa Bay. So gain a better understanding of who our different stakeholders are, who our different audiences are, what do they do, how often do they do it, and who are they connected to? So what are the different, stakeholder networks that are present? How does that influence people's behaviors or their activities? The role of social capital in making environmental decisions and things like that. We also, it's not just enough to know, what do people know and what do they do, but also what are barriers to their engagement with conservation messages that we may be putting forward, and ultimately what influences their decision to adopt pro-environmental behaviors of a variety of sorts. So thinking about, what does it take to make environmental decisions? How do we create campaigns that are tailored to specific audiences for specific behaviors? Thinking about incentives, financial or non-financial, and also getting into that realm of impact evaluation, right? Seeing, if our interventions are actually having the desired effect. Similarly, on that line, we do have a specific interest in thinking about the effectiveness of local ordinances, like, county-wide bans on fertilizer use and sales during the rainy months, but also those various social marketing campaigns to reduce fertilizer use and nitrogen loadings. So again, other opportunities here to develop new indicators that we can track over time, but also policy links as well. And then sort of thinking also into the future and recognizing that, we get a lot of climate change models and ecological models that look at the future, but we know that, the environment is intrinsically tied to the human environment. And so we want to help be able to understand what the future is going to look like considering human responses to climate change, and thinking about how changes in the environment influence humans' behaviors, and how that change in human behaviors then in turn goes back and affects the environment. And so we want to adopt some of this kind of futures thinking, systems thinking type of approach, and we can get into sort of future economics, migration, planning decisions, and all sorts of things in that space. So those are some of our big, long-term monitoring priorities, and we don't really have time today to kind of discuss them, too much in more detail, but I do just want to sort of leave these with you. Again, all of these slides are going to be available, so you'll have, you can come back to these at any time, but give this an opportunity to start kind of thinking about, where do you envision, yourself fitting into this? How do these overlap with your interests, your expertise? Is there opportunities here for, collaborating on new projects, or just providing guidance on existing projects and how to better align them with these? But yeah, so please feel free to sort of let these ideas percolate. These are, directions that we're headed. There's a lot of stuff that falls under those umbrellas, and anything that really helps us achieve our conservation and management goals within these research and monitoring priorities is something that is of a lot of interest to us. So with that said, thinking about things that are on the horizon right now, and some things that we are actually getting ready to start implementing. So one of the first projects that we are doing, we're actually starting this Friday, is a project that's looking at pelican entanglements, and especially the human dimensions of pelican entanglements at the South Skyway Fishing Pier. And so some of you are probably familiar with this issue. For those that aren't, the South Skyway Fishing Pier down here in Pinellas County has a very long history of controversy in terms of frequent entanglements of brown pelicans with fishing lines on the pier. And there have been a number of educational campaigns in the past to try to get anglers educated on what to do if you hook a pelican, or to try to reduce the number of severe entanglements and death from fishing lines on the pier. Anecdotal evidence suggests that it's not working, and entanglements are just continuing to increase. And so, very controversially, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission enacted new changes effective October 1st of this year. Basically, what they are going to be doing is limiting fishing gear from November 15th to March 15th every year on the pier, specifically limiting, fishing rigs with no more than one hook attached to them, and banning any hook that has multiple hooks, right? So single hook only types of hooks. And also anglers are limited to no more than 2 hook and line fishing gear. There's also an educational requirement. They require that every angler on the pier takes a course, however they define what that course is going to be. I'm not sure how they're going to monitor that or enforce that. But that's an FWC problem that we're not going to particularly deal with. But we are interested in getting in looking at this, and we want to say, okay, with these regulations coming up, we would like to estimate the effectiveness of those regulations in their ability to reduce the rate of severe pelican entanglements at the Skyway Fishing Pier. And so we're going to do this over a period of basically 2 years, with a total of about 60 surveys being done on the pier during the season of gear restrictions and 60 surveys outside of the season of restrictions. And we're going to have 2 components. So one of them is going to be pelican surveys so that we can get objective data on the rate of pelican entanglements over time. But also at the same time, we're going to be going onto the pier and asking anglers to report their own observations of pelican entanglement rates, also telling us about their reasons for visiting the pier. We're going to ask them about the different types of gear that they're using, and they have an opportunity to sort of provide feedback on, their opinions about pelican entanglement rates and gear restrictions. And all of this is to help us really sort of answer some of these fundamental questions. Are entanglement rates going to change between seasons and between years with these new regulations in place? And I think it'd be very interesting to find out if subjective entanglement rates from the anglers on the pier, how well they align to actual objective rates of pelican entanglement. So thinking about, thinking ahead, eventually we want to have some kind of campaign associated with this after we learn this. And it'll be really helpful to know, are anglers underestimating the extent of the problem, or maybe they're even overestimating, or maybe they have a really good idea of the rate of pelican entanglement rates. And so all of that will help us determine, the best courses of action. We also have questions designed to estimate the rate of non-compliance with fishing gear restrictions, so that we can see if people are actually following the rules and if that's going to make a difference. But also thinking about, we don't know much about the anglers that use the pier, so getting more information on why they're visiting, who is coming to it, and what they like to do, and the gear they like to use on the pier. So that's starting this Friday, and it'll continue until May of next year, and then we'll restart again at the same time next year. We have phase 2 of our pipe up campaign. So as Ed mentioned in the beginning, we had this initial phase of research where we were looking into, barriers to homeowners to homeowners getting their private lateral sewer line inspected. And now, since we've done that research, now Pinellas County is offering a rebate program for select areas across Pinellas County. And so now we want to take this as an opportunity to further explore what messages might be most effective in increasing homeowners' participation in this rebate program. And so the first task that we're going to do is just holding focus groups. We want to better understand that now that there is a rebate program in place, we want to understand how knowledgeable they are about the issues, what they think about the rebate program, and we want to do some pilot testing of, potential images, messages, and a website that they can access. Once we have an idea of the sort of necessary ingredients that are attractive to homeowners, we'll be doing a randomized control trial, basically, where we are going to create some marketing materials in a mail-out leaflet and send them to between 5,000 to 10,000 addresses within the rebate eligibility area. And we'll measure from those 2 behaviors. So based depending on which type of flyer they get, maybe one that's very sort of standard kind of practice, but then 2 others that are informed from our focus groups, seeing what's the rate of web page visits to find out their ability to apply for the program, but also seeing who actually goes through and submits a program eligibility query on the website. And so this is all to help us better understand, who is interested in these rebate programs. How can we get people interested and get them to actually check if they qualify for the rebates? And so some of the questions that we want to answer with this, how well does the rebate program actually reduce known financial barriers to inspection of their sewer lines? What types of rebate marketing designs are most appealing to homeowners? What message frames inspire greater interest and action? And what types of homeowners are most interested in the rebate program? There are several underserved communities that are within the area of applicability. And so especially, sort of gauging for the diversity of homeowners in the area, what really is most attractive and appealing to them. We have another project coming up. We actually have a TBERF funded project that is going to be going into this community of St. Pete Beach. And basically we'll be going into the community, having a meeting with all of the homeowners in the association to notify them that they'll be doing a project where they are going to design for each of the houses along this shoreline. They're going to be delivering permit designs or ecological engineering designs for green shorelines for each house along that coastline. And so they're going to be doing this project where they go in and sort of go through the permitting process and have meetings to answer questions and to deliver the designs to their homes. And we think this is a great opportunity for us to identify some of the key barriers to wealthy homeowners' adoption of living shorelines. We know that for many residents, the financial barrier involved in creating a living shoreline on their property is a huge hurdle. But we are interested in this case where these homeowners are relatively wealthy. If that financial burden of getting a design done in their hands already and just then having to apply for a permit, if that actually reduces some of the barriers. And so our current plans are to have several surveys with these communities in line with the timeline that is already existing. So first, getting to understand what their baseline is, where they're coming at from, what do they know about living shorelines, their experiences, and some of their other environmental characteristics. After they've heard a little bit about it, what are their expectations or interests, and also getting contact information so that we can track their sort of progress throughout the permitting process. Following up, once they have, initial designs for 3 homes, checking in with the homeowners again and updating them on the progress, tracking that interest and the salience of these different messages. Once they get the surveys in hand, finding out, does this have aesthetic appeal? Do they think that it's now going to be much easier for them to adopt a living shoreline now that they have the design plans in their hands? And also, their intentions to actually follow through on that. And then we'll have a follow-up survey that kind of gives us an end result for that. So really here we're interested in, how do interest and knowledge of living shorelines and the adoption process evolve over time in a real sort of process? What factors are influencing homeowners' intentions to actually seek a permit for a living shoreline? Does the provision of these design plans, so does actually handing design plans into the hands of homeowners actually really make it easier for them to go through the permitting process, or is it still too much of a hurdle for them? And how well do actual outcomes of living shorelines align with homeowners' expectations? Is this, is this what they thought it would be? Is it still desirable to them? Those are the types of questions that we want to answer. And then the last key thing that we have coming up on our plate is what we are tentatively calling a Tampa Bay Community Survey. And so this is going to be a very big long-term effort from us. With the goal is that we're going to create a long-term survey to monitor social and cultural changes in Tampa Bay that can help us in tracking our achievement of our CCMP goals. And so we're thinking, within this watershed, every 2 to 3 years, delivering the survey to about 1,000 residents or more, if available, and asking them a range of questions. And this is kind of sort of still open, but some things that we're thinking about is, being able to track their knowledge of the Bay and the stressors that the Bay is facing. Where do they get information from to learn about this? You've got your various, psychometrics, right? So understanding value orientations, the new ecological paradigm, place attachment, connection to nature, those sorts of things to help us better make linkages between, distal drivers of behavior and more proximal drivers of behavior. What are their priorities, both as an individual person, but also in their community? We want to see how the environment stacks up, right, to issues of education, public health, job security, those types of things, and where the environment sits on their plate of priorities. Thinking about social capital, what are their networks? Who do they trust? What do they participate in? So again, thinking about who uses the Bay and for what different reasons. What do people get out of the Bay? And also, of course, self-reported behaviors for a bunch of different things that we may be interested in and the associated sort of attitudes and social norms that come with them. And I really wanted to sort of open this up to folks, and we can have sort of just a short kind of conversation right now. But I think this project, it's still in development, but it's a very big project, and we want it to really become a staple for Tampa Bay for the next 10 to 20 years, and to be able to establish long-term temporal social data that can actually help us. And so I think it'd be really great if people have an interest in this project and helping to co-develop this big community survey. We could potentially form a working group out of the subcommittee specifically focused on this survey. But I wanted to sort of, open up to folks to sort of comment on, or if you don't have thoughts now, if you want to sort of get in touch later. But thinking about, how do we identify either new or capitalizing on existing social indicators that we can use to monitor progress towards our CCMP goals that we can put into this survey. But also thinking about, we want, not just the estuary program, but we want everybody who is interested in this to be able to use it in their own work and for it to inform things that you might be want. So thinking about, what data could you use, for your lab, for your agency or your organization, or just in your own community? What would you like to be able to know about the community over time? And also, do you want to extend this just beyond Tampa Bay? We've got plenty of people from UCF and UF and, Sarasota, down in Sarasota, and we've got people up in the Panhandle and all this other stuff. So, obviously we have a vested interest in Tampa Bay, but if you are interested in, sort of helping us expand this, it can be a broader region or maybe even a statewide type of thing that we do. And so just kind of wanted to hear if anyone has any thoughts or is particularly interested in sort of helping us develop this community survey a bit further, please feel to reach out. Anyone have any ideas?
Like there's several comments in the chat kind of responding to that offer. Puget Sound Partnership mentioned that they have done a similar survey that we probably learn from as well. So they've offered to share that with us. But there are several comments in terms of helping out with development of the survey from the subcommittee members that are listed in the chat.
Awesome. Yeah, great. I'm just reading through them now. So yeah, Krista, the survey tool, yeah, hasn't been developed yet. There are other partners that have, other estuary programs have their own sort of versions of these. Pinellas County also has their own version of the Pinellas, I think they call it the Pinellas Community Survey. And so that's not specifically environmental focused, but there are some sort of foundations that already exist out there. And so we can certainly pull and not have to reinvent some wheels. But it'd be great also, for us to think about specific needs in Tampa Bay that we could incorporate. Noel, it'd be great if the survey could be available in multiple languages. Yep. So any sort of survey that we have, it goes out in English, Spanish, and usually will also be in Vietnamese as well for our unique Vietnamese population in Tampa Bay. Maybe a few questions related to barrier analysis to identify barriers to individual participation in achieving these goals. Rachel, thank you for your interest. Importance of cultural resources for communities. Jan, expanding it to other areas. Pilot run to look at measure validity and then expand to other areas. But yeah, goal of 10 to 20 years makes it very powerful. If all are willing to share the survey tools, that would be great for sure. And then, I'm sorry to see you go, but thanks for stopping by, Erin. Yeah, so people who are interested, maybe if it's easier, also for the folks at home, please send me an email and let me know if you're interested in sort of forming a more specific kind of working group or task force focused on this and thinking about how it can apply to your different interests and your own goals. And so then the last thing that I want to talk about then for this meeting is also still things that are coming up soon, projects that we would like to do, but these are specifically external grants and funding opportunities that we would really like to identify partners with, because as a staff of 8 people, it's going to be hard for us to sort of take all of these on to ourselves, and so we'd love to sort of gauge interest in other organizations and universities and individuals that might be able to help us in some of these different funding opportunities. So the first one, yep.
Yeah, just to chime in, there was an earlier comment, I think, from Paul Monahan suggesting that having a shared Google Doc with everyone kind of putting in their current research initiatives just as a vehicle to share sort of projects that are ongoing either in the region or elsewhere, and where there could be nexus with other researchers in the group. That was a suggestion earlier in the chat too while you're speaking.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Paul, to help us get a better idea of what everybody is doing already, and so making sure that we don't have to reinvent too many of these wheels. So the first grant that is open that we would love to partner with folks on is this grant from the Gulf Research Program. Focus is on understanding risk factors contributing to climate-induced mental health impacts. So this is due on the 1st of November. It's up to $1 million over 3 years. And really sort of the things that we would be interested in answering are, what risk factors are associated with poor mental health outcomes in combination with exposure to climate change and its stressors? Are some populations more susceptible to mental health effects than others? And what potential predictive factors could help mitigate those poor mental health outcomes? And so this is an important thing for us that aligns with our equity strategy that we have here, and it really gets at some of these issues of the intersection between the state of the environment and public health and well-being. And so if we want to think about, projects where we could really sort of help develop the space of climate anxiety, ecological grief, and, solastalgia, and those sorts of things, which are really sort of just now kind of getting traction, right? Ecological grief, I think it was proposed as a concept, I think just in 2018. And so there's a lot of space here for us to both really dive into theory and think about what does it mean when we think about climate change and its impacts on people's mental health. How does that differ from other forms of, pre or post traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, those types of things, suicidal ideation, and really where does climate change fit into that space? And we can think about some of the suggested target demographics around this are particularly youth. So youth tend to have higher levels of ecological grief and anxiety, but also indigenous communities. And when we think about climate exposure as well, we know a lot of underserved communities are disproportionately exposed to the impacts of climate change, whether that's increased flooding or heat waves, and other sort of public health issues that arise from harmful algal blooms that may become more present as the temperature increases. And so for this, I just kind of wanted to see if there was interest from any folks here on helping to sort of serve as partners for this type of a grant, or if anyone has any ideas about how this could be useful to you, or any sort of similar research that folks are working on. Yeah, does anyone have any particular interests or experience in this space?
Like, this is Angie Lindsay with UF IFAS. We've done some mental health stuff in relation to disasters, and particularly kind of looking with our extension folks and some mental health that they've done after disasters. So I work closely with a clinical psychologist here at UF that I could certainly, try to see if there's an interest possibly.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks so much, Angie.
Sure.
Also, Blake, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Noelle. I just wanted to mention that some of our work with the urban fishers around Tampa Bay has shown multiple mental health benefits that they're receiving through that activity. So just could be something that you could build on to, just to show the relevance.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, they're really impacted by the red tide, obviously.
Anyone else? I see Amanda applied for another NASM grant in climate change and youth anxiety. So you'd help you have. Awesome. Thanks, Amanda. I'm writing you down. We'll be in touch. Yes, Krista. Krista, do you want to explain a little bit about that project that you mentioned?
Sure. We're going through the process of trying to get some additional funding because the original project was ending, but there is a bridge, some bridge funding available. We got involved in one of these USDA funded regional efforts to address farmer rancher stress. And our role, my role as an economist, I am not a clinical psychologist, and know that disaster events, which is one of the things we study, can induce stress. But the larger project was much more focused on creating hotlines, creating resources for farmers and ranchers that were experiencing stress or experiencing some of these other impacts of long-term stress. And we were contributing by providing data related to disaster events and identifying regions that may have been impacted more than once in the recent past, and be areas that some of these resources might be more necessary than others. And so what we're trying to do at this point with some of the bridge funding, if it comes through, is to make some of that data available through a web-based geovisualization. But the data limitations on the mental health side have been really hard to do a lot of the types of quantitative analysis that we normally do. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't all be focusing on it and trying to do better.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, and it'd be great if we could help contribute to some of those data collection efforts for, these mental health indicators and those impacts. That'd be great. So yeah, so anyone interested in this, please send me an email. Let me know, and we can get together and talk more about potential ideas. Another upcoming project, grant opportunity, focuses on the social, cultural, and economic assessments of harmful algal blooms. And so this is a $300,000 to $400,000 per year grant from NOAA, Department of Commerce, and the National Ocean Service. This one has a little quicker of a turnaround, and the sense that a letter of intent needs to be submitted by October 13th, but it's a relatively short, max 2-page letter of intent, and then January is when the proposal is due. But really sort of, one of our interests for this is thinking about how do different types of harmful algal bloom events impact different stakeholder groups in Tampa Bay. So especially when we think about, sort of the uniqueness of different types of algal blooms. We've got, your stereotypical red tide, but we also have other algal blooms that actually might be quite attractive to people. And so there's this kind of dichotomy here in sort of, similar harmful events, but potentially very different experiences or perceptions of them. And really thinking about our different, sort of actors in the system and how they're impacted by these events. So, from coastal residents to the cleanup crews that have to directly, remove the fish and are responsible for kind of, direct potential contamination. Fishermen communities, local businesses, specifically coastal businesses, that can be restaurants, but also ecotourism businesses that are affected by these. And then, of course, our recreationalists across the watershed that may not be directly impacted, but influences their activities and the things that they like to do. So we'd be really interested in investigating, differences between these two types of harmful algal bloom events, and really getting to better understand the different perceptions that people have, emotions, experiences. How did these have events change their responses or lost opportunities? But also thinking about the sources that they get information from and the role of networks and social capital, word of mouth, those sorts of things. And yeah, how that all kind of comes together. And so I know, I think Krista, you have participated in this funding scheme for a different year, I think. And so there's probably a lot of synergy with existing projects that are going on. But yeah, I just kind of also wanted to flag here if there are folks that are interested in this type of work. Please, yeah, write in the chat or let me know if you have any thoughts about this. Yeah, I see Paul. We're writing up a research for an FWC-funded study on how communications and perceptions. Yeah, cool. Great. Thanks, Paul. That'd be great to get info on that.
Blake, I stuck a link to a webinar that's happening that is going to discuss this particular opportunity at the beginning of it today at 3 o'clock. And then there's several economists. I'm one of them that's going to speak on related research and kind of make a call for what and hopefully draw up some ideas for this funding opportunity. So if anybody is interested, you do have to register, but I don't believe that they will cap it off. And it will be recorded and available on the NHAP website afterwards.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Krista. So yeah, anybody interested, please feel free to, again, reach out, send me an email. And then just the last one that I have for today, we won't talk about it for too much, but this kind of gets at what Nia had mentioned earlier today. And so thinking about applying for funding from TBRF, so the Tampa Bay Environmental Restoration Fund, this coming spring, or I guess that's still technically winter, but really sort of focused on the effectiveness of these experiential education strategies on knowledge retention and transfer. So we really want to better understand, compared to more traditional classroom experiences, how well do these experiential education programs impact, people's ability to retain the knowledge that they've gained, but also how malleable is that knowledge to extend into things that weren't covered explicitly by that educational experience. And so it's about knowledge retention and transfer. And so for anybody who's interested in this, this is, a great opportunity in terms of thinking about, community involvement, getting people on the water, doing some fun educational activities, but also coming up with some ways to actually evaluate these types of outreach and education programs in a way that we can make some real impactful comparisons between, different types of educational activities and their effectiveness on knowledge retention and transfer. So yeah, I'm happy to stick around for anyone that wants to discuss this opportunity more. Of course, we're out of time. So if you're interested in this, please also shoot me another email. Any thoughts on any of the stuff that we talked about today, any of the projects upcoming or long-term future, please reach out to me. Happy to chat about this stuff. The next meeting is going to be January 31st of next year. You'll see that in the agenda. That is published already on our calendar on the website, so you can always refer to our website to make sure that you know when the next date is. And then closer, to the actual meeting date, I'll send everybody out more information about how they join. It'll also still be virtual, so no worries for anybody having to commute or anything like that. So I'll stick around for a little bit if people want to continue to discuss, but thank you all so much for coming to the first meeting that we have. I'm very excited about all of the people that showed up and all of the interest that there is across this community. And I'm looking forward to doing some really fun and impactful work with all of you. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Blake.
Thank you.